Okay, hi. So here we are. We're going to start doing a landscape today. And I chose this one to paint because it has water in it. It also has really good atmospheric perspective, which means you see how things get lighter and cooler as they move away. And I chose the one with water as well because some of you might want to know how to do water. So we'll do our best. Oh, okay, so this is the photo I'm working from. I've already made the sketch. I made my pencil line on this a little bit darker because I tried doing a demo in my in-person class, and what happened was when I started adding washes to it, the line started to kind of disappear, which drove me a little crazy. Not that it matters. With landscape, you don't have to have everything in exactly the same place as the photo. Nobody's going to know where this tree was or where this rock was or anything. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wet my paper to start with because I'm going to start with doing a wet wash. So I've already, I'm wetting my paper with clean water. I've already mixed up a couple of washes. I actually just mixed up 2 washes because, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but what you want to do is start with your lightest values first. Now, this is going to be a really loose painting. I don't expect you to be hyper realistic in this. It's a lot to paint. I think the most important thing is to get this whole sense of of the landscape and how colors make things recede into the distance. So I will also show you a couple of fun techniques for doing some stuff. So, okay, so what I've done is I've mixed up some blue wash like this, and with the cooler blue, and I've mixed up some green wash, and I only chose these 2 colors mostly because I have sky, water, and then the hills. I will change the colors of these, but the thing about this landscape and why I chose these color washes is because see how on the edge of, this is backlit, which means the sun is facing this way. And so there's a little light rim of light on the edge of these hills on each one. And I wanted to retain that because, as you know, once you get darker, you can't get lighter again. I mean, it's very hard. Okay, so I'm going to start with putting a blue wash, just a simple blue wash on maybe some of the background hills here, like that. And then I'm also, what I've done too, while I'm here, I should get off this stool I'm standing on, is I've retained the, there's some white areas here that I've tried to retain as white, so I'm kind of just painting around them. And I suppose if I hadn't made a wash, it would be easier to paint around them. But, I'm trying to leave my white areas white. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a light wash here, leaving some of those white areas white. Of course, drying shift is going to cause the color to dry a lot lighter. And then while I have you here, I'm going to show you something that's cool. I wish I prepared a little better. But you can take some toilet tissue or some soft tissue, and if you want to make clouds, this is a cool way to make them. It just takes some, the nice thing about watercolor is there's all these techniques for getting certain effects. Like, look, now you have clouds. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so I'm going to jump up here and see how this is looking. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so then I'm going to paint all of these hills light green because these are all going to get covered over. And like I said, I want to retain that light green stuff on the top. There's a little bit of grayish brown here on the bottom, so I might put that in. It doesn't matter. Most of this is going to get covered up. What I'm doing now is focusing on my lightest washes, and my wet paper's already starting to dry, so it's good to have big puddles of washes done before you start painting, just so it doesn't doesn't dry, and then when you hit it with the wet brushes, you know it'll bloom. Okay, yeah, there might be a little bit of a grayish, bluish brown in here, so I might go back in and put some of that. I'm mixing up like a blue, ultramarine blue, a little ultramarine blue, and a little bit of brown here, and just get some of that in here. Hopefully it's still wet. I can do that. Okay, so those are my light washes, and I'm just allowing them to run together. It's pretty subtle, doesn't matter. Okay, so that's that. Now you have to just wait till I'm gonna dry this stuff with the hair dryer. And this will just take a second, so let's do that. Oh, before I start, I noticed that my clouds are disappearing. That's probably because the paper was super wet, so I'm gonna go ahead and dab this again and get these clouds in there. Yeah, cool, that's great. Okay, now I'm gonna hit it. Okay. You know, and of course you can fast forward through me drying this. I'm not great at video editing, so otherwise I would eliminate this, but, okay. This was pretty wet, so I think I'm just gonna, do the best I can to get this dry and make sure everything's on track here. Okay. That feels good. Okay. I just got all these new brushes I want to try out. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to start with my lightest colors. And so for this, I'm going to kind of create a blue. Maybe I'm going to add a little bit of rose to the blue to make a little bit of a violet color. I don't want it bright purple or anything, but a little bit of a violet color for that distant hill. Because as things get further back, they do get more kind of blue-violet. So sometimes they look gray, sometimes they look blue, sometimes they look violet. So let me see. I'm trying not to get my head in this picture, but I'm gonna go ahead and paint these. You know, because like I said, I can build up these layers afterward, you know, make them a little bit darker. I'm just gonna do like a series of kind of basic glazing here. And as things start to move this way, they become a little bit greener. So let's try here. This is just kind of spontaneous and intuitive, but I'm mixing that blue-gray with my green. And speaking of greens, you know, there's all kinds of ways to, you know, with washes, you gotta move kind of fast because you don't want it drying. But there's all kinds of ways to make greens. It isn't just green out of the tube and yellow and green. You can try some different recipes for green, like, I just want to make sure I don't cover up those. You can try some different recipes for green. One of the things you could do is mix Payne's gray and yellow. Will give you a nice kind of an olivey green. And now, as these are coming forward, you can see how the color is starting to shift. You can also make green out of ultramarine blue and yellow. So what might be fun before you start this is, you know, and oh, by the way, I also have my tester here, so I'm testing my color before I put it on because, you know, but what might be fun is to try doing, oh gosh, this has already started to dry. That's not good. And I'm making this like a little brighter green because of that edge. I want that to retain. Actually, I think I'm going to throw in a little bit of yellow into this. Yeah. Okay. I want that to I want to retain that edge, that bright edge on the outside of here. So, you know, doing layers of washes can be kind of unnerving because things start to dry and sometimes they bloom and sometimes you don't get it right. So don't worry about it. You know, just do the best you can. I told my in-person class, the best way to ruin your self-esteem is to take up watercolor. Okay, anyway. Yeah, because, you know, it's frustrating sometimes. It just, you know, it's so unpredictable, but I do think that's also the beauty of it. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm going ahead and I'm gonna add a little bit of warmer. Oh, another thing about greens is that, yeah, don't just use like the hooker's green and the yellow. Think about, you know, if you want to make greens warmer, one way to do it is to add a little cadmium red to the green and a little yellow and cadmium red. It makes a warmer green, see? So some of these trees here, the way these trees are, they have this backlighting edge and it's kind of, you know, that green color. So I'm gonna just put some of that color in here and, you know, where I see it. And, you know, so I have a kind of a range going here, you know, and I could totally screw this up, but hopefully I won't. Okay. Okay. Anyway, okay, so I've already started to get, you know, the color shifts from it that are starting to happen that go from, you know, the blue-gray to green to a warmer green. Okay, now I have to dry it again. And I will do the water in a moment. Okay, yeah, see, this is starting to bloom a little bit, but you know, I swear, I think watercolor artists is, you know, I don't think that they make any, I think they make less mistakes a little bit because they know about it, but I think that they just get better at fixing their mistakes. Yeah, that's my philosophy on watercolors. So I'm gonna try to do the water now. Because the paper's dry on that side, and it's a good time to do that. So let me get some blues. I think I'm gonna try some of the cooler blues. I'm actually using phthalo, which you don't have. You have cerulean, but it's pretty similar. And a little bit of ultramarine together. I'll just show you that. And you know, also the water, as it moves further back, it gets lighter. Look at the difference between this blue and this blue. It's quite dramatic. So I want to retain that too. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to my brush to start out, and then I'll use more of the full strength. Yeah, that's pretty dark. I should have tested it. Okay, I'm going to add a little more water. Yeah, you can test it. And then, you know, there is a drying shift, so it does dry. And then I'm retaining that little bit of light along the coastline because, you know, and also white, as it gets further away, it gets, as it further away, it gets a little bluer as well. So I'm just kind of leaving some of those white spots, you know, the white areas from the water in here, and doing the best I can to try to leave those white areas. You know, for something like this, you could also too you could use, some artists use white gouache to retouch it up, or use a white gel pen, which is also a cool thing to have for watercoloring. And if I have one here, I'll show you how it works. Okay, now I'm going to dip in some more blue into my, you know, just to try to get it a little darker. I don't want to get my head in here. I don't like it when I do that, so here. So I'm going to try to get some of this white, and I want to keep this wash going. You know, I want to keep this wash going because I don't want to have blooms and such going on. And as I'm moving this way, I'm getting it to be a little bit darker. And here, got to work fast. Okay, and then, you know, there is some light areas here that I will try to get. Work around this rock. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect. Give it a try. This is not easy. I don't expect it, you know, I don't expect it to be hyper realistic or anything. It can be really loose and painterly. It's fine. I think the most important thing about this assignment is to get that color shift happening that happens as things move further away, you know, just to retain that sense of distance through atmospheric perspective or aerial perspective. So, oh, that's weird. It started to bloom here. Well, that's my bad, because I put water in here to bring the wash down. I probably should have had it on a tilt. Anyway, we can fix that later. Just gonna leave it, I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay, I'm gonna dry it again. And then, this is pretty dry, but okay, now I may put this on a little bit of a tilt. Let me see how it looks. I think I'm going to put a book under here. Hold on a minute. Hang on. Here, we'll put the artist handbook underneath it. That's a good book. Okay, that lets me see it a little better. Let me see how it looks in the video. Looks okay, good. All right, so next, I'm gonna start from the top again, and I'm gonna kind of increase the values on these layers. Let me see if you can see my palette. Well, I could put the palette here, and then you could see what I'm doing. Let me see if you can see that. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. That might be helpful. Okay, so this is a little bit darker blue. I want to get that little bit darker blue, but I don't want to make it too dark because it's very gradual. So I'm adding a little Payne's gray to the blue, a little bit of green. Oh, that's too dark. Okay. I should have, where's my tester? Here we go. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Let's add a little bit of red to it too. You know, and the other thing is that when you do washes like this, you can add other colors to them. Let me show you what this is cool. I mean, you could add some green into here. You can add some gray. You can add, you know, just kind of letting the washes blend together. And it's nice to kind of infuse different, there's a lot of water here. I gotta soak that up before it drips. Here we go. Okay, yeah. Yeah, anyway. Okay, all right. Okay, let's see. Now let's keep moving toward us. Okay, I'm gonna put in a little bit of brown. I don't know if you could see this. Let me see if that shows up. Yeah, I'm gonna put a little brown and a little bit of yellow on this side so that I can have kind of a, I'm gonna add a little red to it too, just to have kind of a yellow ochre color. Hold on, I got this here. Yeah, and I'm gonna do the next layer. Actually, I'm going to dry this because I'm worried if I hit the next layer and this is when it's gonna bloom, so. You know, and there's also things you can do. There's subtle things happening in here, like, let me show you. There's a little bit of a light, you know, light areas where the hills kind of overlap. So, you know, if you wanted to, you could always pull out a little bit of color. Well, that didn't work. That's okay. Anyway, we'll go back to that later. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and increase this just so it doesn't, see, I'm just working with my mistake. Yeah, anyway, right, so then I'm gonna do another layer here of hills. It's getting gradually a little bit greener. I'm using some of the blue, some of the green, you know, but the thing is it's going to get darker. The color's going to become more intense, and as it moves closer to the viewer, so it's going to become more intense. It's going to become warmer. I seem to like this big brush. It's a little bit funny because, okay, all right, okay. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna dry this again. Okay, what do I do with these nice brushes I just got? Well, anyway. Okay, next layer. Okay, now I'm gonna take some green. I'm gonna add a little bit of brown to it. That gives a little bit of a warmer green, the green and brown. Some green, some brown, right? And also, I'm gonna mix up on this side a little bit of ultramarine blue with a little bit of rose, kind of make a violet color so I can, but it's gonna be a little bit more intense than the previous washes. I'm trying them out here. That looks kind of black, so I'm gonna add a little more blue to it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is going to be a lot of, which hill am I on here? Okay. All right. I'm getting a little bit more, it's getting a little bit more, it's getting a little bit more intense as it moves closer to the viewer, right? The colors are getting a little more intense. And, you know, there's a lot of layers in this photograph. I may not put every single layer in here, but you can see how with these washes, you know, I'm adding other, you know, I'm not just adding green, I'm kind of adding green and gray and yeah, all that. Okay. And, you know, there's also a little bit of, there's a little bit of a sense of trees here on the edges of these things. So, you know, it's not just a hard line here. It just, you just have a feeling that there's, you know, trees and stuff in there. Okay. All right. And one thing I'm going to try here, I'm going to pull out a little color. It didn't go so well last time, but I'm trying it anyway. With the plain brush, it's kind of dry, you know, just to get a little bit of the light edge of that hill showing up. Okay, that's not bad. All right. So this is one way to approach it. I mean, you don't have to. You can compartmentalize it like, you know, you can you know, you can just do one section at a time and adjust the color as you go, but you might want to try using, you know, just using washes to, okay, I'm getting some yellow, some red. Oh boy. Yeah. You know, you might want to try this method of just, using washes. There's a bunch of trees here, and it looks like, you know, they have kind of an orangey cast to them. Maybe this was autumn or something, if things get like that in the autumn here, but okay. So I'm putting in, you know, some of that warmer color there, and I'm also going to put it in, I'm going to go ahead and do this layer too, and put some of this warmer color, because I'm going to be going back in to this with, I'm going to be going back in with darker values and cover up a lot of this, but, oh, see, it's blooming. But actually, that looks like a tree, so maybe that's a good thing. That looks like a tree too. Yeah. Okay. So I'm still getting, you know, kind of what's important here. And, you know, the important thing is the feeling that the landscape is moving forward. And while I'm here, I think what I'm going to do is take a break from this for a minute and go back in and do more water. Okay. I'll just get my... My goodness. Anyway, just find my brush, my smaller brush. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get some more of this. I actually have this other palette. You know, if you're really into watercolor and you have a bunch of, if you have a bunch of plates, you could just use one plate for blue, one plate for, you know, you can use the plates for different colors, and then you don't have to clean them all the time, which is, I think some people do that. So let's look at this. Cool. Okay. So, you know, this is that area that bloomed. So I'm going back in with some darker blue wash that I made. And I'm just kind of getting the feeling of, you know, some of the waves and the white around the rocks. Ooh, that's too dark. Not need to make it that dark. Okay. So I do have some of the, you know, the color changes that are happening in here. Kind of got that somewhat. Okay. Anyway, I'm going carefully, kind of light, just to all right. Oh, now I'm going to go ahead and do this part. I'm going to dry it again. So some of these colors start to get pretty dark in here because of the backlighting, I'm sure. You know, these are in deep shadow. But, so I'm going to do my best to kind of replicate those colors. You know, what it's going to really take is like doing greens that are a little darker. I'm even going to add some Payne's Gray into the green to darken it up, and then some brown, just to get those hills. The hills, I'm gonna try it on my tester. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. And, you know, and then I'm gonna try to retain this little edge here. Oh, there's like this funny little path there, huh? Okay. You know, I'm gonna just try to keep that little green edge. And here, let me make this darker. Also, there's a lot of sand and rocks, so I'm gonna mix up some brown and some gray also, and pull it into here. Yeah, okay. That looks pretty dark, but it is gonna dry. It is gonna dry lighter. And let me soak that up. Okay. Yeah, and because there's that, you know, that little green edge that I want to leave, I don't really have to dry. I don't have to dry these layers as I'm working on them because I'm separating them with the already dried paint, but right. And then there's all these trees down here. So I'm going to go ahead and, I'm not going to paint this here because I'm going to be painting this really with the dark, dark values. But you can see how it's starting to take shape. And, yeah, I think I'll dry it again. I know this is a long video, right? But, you know, I wanted to make sure to get everything in here. So I'm just gonna, what I'm gonna do, I may not finish this while we're watching the video, but I'm just gonna show you, I'll show you the finished painting after I finish painting it, but I wanna show you like some examples. For example, if I'm gonna do rock, this rock has a little bit of moss here on the light side, see it? So I'm gonna try to get that in my light side of my color, and you know, and then the light sides of this rock, you know, are kind of blue-gray. So I'm gonna try to get that happening here, like here, a little bit of that, and a little bit of the gray here. So I'll do, let's say I do a rock and I do some of these trees, and then I'll finish this off camera and I'll post it when I'm done, and you'll see what's possible. Okay, so I'm gonna do some of these trees in the foreground. Okay, for example, okay, I'm using my painting over this because it's dry. I'm using a dark green. I use the Hooker's green and brown, make a nice dark green, make a nice deep dark green. And of course it's a lot of pigment, more pigment to water ratio, but I like these round brushes for making trees. See, you can just kind of finesse them. So that's one thing you can do. And you know, sometimes these trees have, so I'm leaving some of the light, and then sometimes these trees have, here, let me do another one. So I want the color to be dark enough so that it covers up the lighter washes that I did underneath that are dry, so it's not gonna bloom. But sometimes if you're gonna do a tree, you can leave a little bit of a hint of the trunk showing, you know, and go in later with that, make it a little reddish color. So, you know, I'm working around that with some of my trees. You know, I also have, you know, some of these trees have a like kind of more of that orangey pine needles on them. So I might want to get some of those colors in here, you know, before I hit it with the dark color. So I'm just gonna maybe put in, I'm using red and yellow, and just get some of that warm color in here, and then I'm gonna go over it. I'm gonna dry it and go over it with the hair dryer. Yeah, I mean, go over it with the dark green. I can't chew gum and walk. Okay, anyway, so I'll just show you how I would do that. Okay, so I dried that. You know, sometimes I like these big brushes for painting stuff like these trees. I know it seems like you're doing a lot of detail and the trees are delicate, but they do some neat stuff. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so I have this, you know, because you can get a lot of you can get a lot of volume from the brush. You can also get a lot of detail from the brush. So I'm kind of working here with this red, you know, with this orange color underneath or whatever. You know, you can also get a sense of, and you don't have to be a slave to the photo. Like, nobody's going to know where this tree was and what was there. As long as you make a convincing illusion, it's fine. That's one of the good things about landscape, is that you don't have to be exact, you know, you don't have to be exact at all. Okay. There was a couple other things like here, see where it bloomed? I'm actually going to work with that and make it into a tree. Yeah, that's cool. See? And then I have the light side of the tree, the dark side of the tree. There's some trees up here that have some reddish color in them. And, you know, I'm painting this lighter back here because these are they're further away. So you might get a hint of some colors that are happening, but they're going to be kind of, you know, not as saturated as far as the greens go. So let me go back to the rock part, and then I'm going to cut the video because I'm going to finish it. I'll finish it without, I mean, I could record it, but it would make a long video, and maybe I want to take a break. Okay, here. I'm painting the dark part of the rock with Payne's Gray. Okay. So rocks are interesting. This is dry. I'm just getting, you know, the different facets. There's a dark side, there's a light side. Yep. Here. Anyway, don't stress over this. Just enjoy the process. And if you make mistakes, well, those are great teachers. That's what I think. I've been using a lot of grading, a lot of glazing for this particular process, but you know, you can use other techniques like wet and wet and whatever you think is fitting for that particular thing. And of course, these rocks in the foreground, the darks are going to be a lot darker because they're closer to us, and that's the way atmospheric perspective works, right? So yeah, starting to happen. Okay. All right. Well, let's see if I have a white gel pen. I can show you how it works. It's pretty neat. Do I have one? Well, I don't know. So anyway, I could keep working on this and record it, but I guess I've run out of things to say. It's okay. I'm just trying to get these little trees on the edge here. Okay, that's good. And sometimes it's good to take away, you know, to walk away from your work and just take a break from it and come back to it. I mean, especially if you don't have a hair dryer, that kind of forces you to wait in between layers for it to dry. And that's a good practice for painting in general, because sometimes you don't see things until you come back and then you say, oh, wow, I didn't see that before. Right. What happened here? That's kind of gross. Something splattered. And if you wanted to go back into the background, like, you know, where these distant hills are, and you want to give a little bit of that indication of trees back there on those hills, just make sure your paint's lighter. You see? This is like a lighter color. Then I can go back in and fuss with it a little bit, because, you know, these are all the same color greens, but atmospheric perspective does that. It makes it look as if things are receding. So I'm going back into these hills and just kind of indicating a little bit of a tree line here. You know, I did a bloom here, so maybe I'll put a tree line there. Get rid of that bloom. Yeah, and that's even going to be lighter, because it's just always going to get lighter when you're working on things like that. You know, and those trees back there, you're not going to really see much in terms of I keep saying I'm going to stop this video, but then I keep painting. That's funny. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, that's one thing you can do, you know, to get a little more definition in some of these layers of hills, because they do have a lot of trees on them. And just make sure that the value corresponds with the distance that you're trying to portray. You know, as it moves closer, it's going to get a more green, it's going to get a little darker. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. All right. Anyway. Anything else I want to tell you? I don't know. If you wanted to make this edge, well, I have it here, and well, I have you here. If you want to make it a little bit brighter, let's say I want to make that edge that's closer to us a little bit warmer. I can always paint it now before I start going in and painting the trees and stuff. But I think I'm going to cut the video and continue this. And no, don't stress, just enjoy yourself, have fun with it. You know, this is just a big experimental workshop, really, because you're learning, as we all are. And yeah, okay, I'm stopping now. Okay, bye.